So we are at verse 37 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, and just summarizing a little bit before so we have a right context. So Bhagwan taught the path of meditation to Arjuna, and meditation is paying spontaneous attention to our own self. And what are the different parts of our mind and senses? Speciality of the senses are to perceive, mind is to feel, and intellect is to think, judge, and comprehend. But the self, the expression of self, the subtlest expression of self is awareness. So awareness is not really an action, thought, or feeling, but it is something that transcends all this. And that awareness is present in all three states: the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It's a substratum of all of it. So to direct the awareness to itself is to be self-aware. That is what we mean by meditation. Putting attention on the self-awareness. For that, the quietude of mind is required. We have to quieten the mind by making it pure through the sadhana. And what are the sadhanas that we have all learned now? Starting from karma yoga and upasana, and then leading to jnana and all the different practices. And with that, the mind becomes quiet, and then we can meditate on self. But Arjun had a doubt that mind is very difficult to quieten. It's very restless. And to control it is like controlling strong winds, like hurricane winds. And so Bhagwan said, yes, it's true, but there's no doubt that this is true, but there is a technique. And that technique is abhyas and vairagya. By constant practice of quietening the mind and by developing vairagya through knowledge, you can control the mind. And then once the mind is controlled, one can easily meditate on ourself or on our own self. So this has to be pursued with dedication and sincerity. This path of abhyas and vairagya, that's what I'm talking about. So after this, Arjuna is kind of satisfied with that answer, that hey, mind is very restless, and what do I do? And Krishna Bhagavan answered it that with abhyas and vairagya you can control it. So he was satisfied. But now he has another question, and I'm going to chant the verse 37. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopetaha yoga chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim krishna gacchati. Ayati is uncontrolled, shraddhaya is by faith, upetaha possessed, yogat from yoga, chalit manasa one whose mind wanders away, aprapya not having attained, yoga samsiddhim perfection in yoga, kama which, gatim end, Krishna, O Krishna, gacchati meets. So he's talking about, suppose there is a person who is very sincere and follows with shraddha the path of meditation. But before attaining the final state of realization, suppose he dies. So here there is a word ayati. Ayati means one who has not put forth complete effort. So I may have shraddha, but for whatever reason, I am not able to put full effort that is required. I'm not there yet. That's why I haven't reached. So that's the situation he's talking about. So here the important thing is the person believes in it. He has Shraddha. But for some reason, either he's not putting full effort or he got a little deviated and disheartened, distracted before attaining that supreme goal. And what supreme goal we're talking about is that you can call it Turiya Avastha, Samadhi, or self-realization. And there is in this verse, it says, Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim. So that is, they're talking about he does not get that final goal. That's what these words mean. So such a person, hey Krishna, what is his gati? That's what Arjuna is asking. What will happen to that being, that particular jiva? What will be his condition? What will he attain? That's what he's asking. Uska kya hoga? He's concerned that, he started his journey, but he has not reached the end, and death has taken him away, and it's like, now what? So that's the question. So now we can read. The translation over here is, he who, though possessed of faith, is unable to control himself, whose mind wanders away from yoga, to what end does he have, having failed to attain perfection in yoga? Go, O Krishna. In these and the following two stanzas, Ved Vyas ji makes Arjuna raise a pertinent question, so that Krishna may get yet another chance to bring right under the footlight of supremely optimistic philosophy of Vedanta. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, so we are at verse 37. Yes, verse 37 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. And I will just little bit summarize what happened right before. So we can, because this is another question that Arjun is going to ask. But what is the context? That's what.
Question. So that Krishna may get yet another chance to bring the supremely optimistic philosophy of Vedanta right under the footlights. None striving on the path divine can ever be destroyed, and whatever he accomplishes will be faithfully carried over as a legacy for the individualized self in its pursuit here and in the hereafter. Each today is an added link in the endless chain of the dead and gone yesterdays. The lengthening chain continues growing by adding to itself, link after link, all the yesterdays. Death is only one of the incidents in a human existence, and the tomorrow has no accidental or arbitrary beginning, but it is only a perfect continuation of today.
My recording suddenly stopped for some reason. I resumed it. So whatever got missed, I'm sorry. Okay. So here, Swamiji is bringing the whole point of reincarnation again, because there is so much confusion, debate, and, people still like, I don't know whether it is true or not and things like that. So he's just kind of hammering it one more time that, whatever we are doing, there's a connection from the past also, right? and it will continue. So we have in this class, we believe in it a lot more, or we believe it in completely. There are two scenarios, because like if you didn't believe in all this, you wouldn't be even studying this, because उसका foundation ही ये है सारा कि भाई, if we have come from somewhere and we are going somewhere and we are eternally there, and this is just a temporary thing. But what is that connection? So he's already said that each today is an added link in the endless change of dead and gone yesterday. So it builds on it, everything. That doesn't mean that we are helplessly stuck in some situation, because we can't become fatalistic either, right? Because some people say, oh, my fate and meri kismat, or this is my destiny, and just surrender to it. No, you don't need to do that, because your future depends on what you do now. Yeah, what we get is maybe our destiny, but how do we deal with it? That becomes our. So that is a very powerful thing in our own hand. That's called the free will, So that's how this paragraph is just kind of reassuring, or trying to remind us that keep that in mind, that, there is a continuous, and death is, we look at it as something really kind of negative and terrible. And of course, when somebody dies, we miss them and everything. But spiritually speaking, at a higher level, we should very deeply know that everybody exists all the time, and death is just a little change in their journey. And they won't even call it a change in the journey. It's like a continuation. That's how we look at it. And maybe we have to start looking at it that way. Then even our coping with it will become better, I think. It is never going to be like all perfect, because we are still in body, we have emotions and all that, but it'll be directed towards the right thing. So that's this whole paragraph is about.
Carefully voicing forth his vague doubt, Arjuna asks as to what will happen to one who strives with deep faith, Shraddha, but fails to accomplish complete self-control during his lifetime, or due to lack of sufficient self-control falls from yoga. The idea is that such an individual may thereby come to lose both the little joys of the sense objects and the absolute bliss in the hereafter. The Vedantins, even while they condemn a mere life of sense objects, do not even for a moment deny the fact that there are traces of joy in the sense life also. According to them, daring thinkers that they are, the joys of the sense objects, Visaya Anand, are in their essence nothing other than glimpses of the spiritual bliss, Brahmanand. The secret import of the question is that those who faithfully follow Krishna's theory may come to lose both the chances of experiencing the finite and the infinite joy.
So here he's saying that there are two different kind of joys over here, right? One is that we are striving for that infinite joy. Joy which is so powerful, eternal, and the maximum. But he's saying that Vedantins also know there is a joy. They don't deny कि भाई दुनिया में भी joy है. There's a joy of relationship, or when we eat some good food or watch a good movie, whatever you can call it. But we also learned that those are ephemeral joys, and they come and go, because they are conditional joys. But the Vedantin knows that the source of that joy is that Brahman only. कहाँ से आ रहा है? Because it is like when my agitation is down in my mind, I feel joyful. And the agitation goes down because if I have a desire spring up in my heart or mind, and then when the desire gets fulfilled, temporarily agitation is down. That's why I feel happy. That's the science of happiness when it comes. So he's saying that, ठीक है, अभी this person, a person, Mr. A, he's striving hard, he's doing self-control, और self उसको तपस भी बोलते हैं ना, like you're doing tapasya, एक तरह की. Tapasya is not always sitting and doing, chanting or meditation. Tapasya can be, I feel like doing it, I'm not doing it. उसको जैसे हमारी टीचर हमको समझाती थी कि जिसमें ना बॉडी थोड़ी heated up हो जाए. So when you are trying to do something, you are trying to not do something, that you want to do, तो थोड़ी heat create होती है, तो उसको तपस बोलते हैं. Okay? वो बेचारा कर रहा है ये सब, सेल्फ कंट्रोल कर रहा है, तो ही इज डिनाइंग द वर्ल्डली प्लेजर्स, राइट? और पार्टी में नहीं जा रहा है, ये नहीं कर रहा है, वो नहीं कर रहा है, टेम्पररी। बाद में तो वंस नॉलेज से छूट जाएगा ना, वैराग्य आ जाएगा, फिर उसको कोई तकलीफ नहीं होने वाली है, वो बहुत खुशी खुशी छोड़ेगा। उसको तो हेडेक होएगा कोई उसको पार्टी में बुलाएगा तो, राइट? चलो, वो वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट स्टेट येट। ही इज स्ट्राइविंग, बिकॉज कृष्ण, आई मीन अर्जुन क्वेश्चन वाज द गाय इज स्ट्राइविंग, दैट मीन्स उसको अभी तकलीफ हो रही है, यू नो, ये सब छोड़ने में। लेकिन उसको, ही इज हैंगिंग ऑन टू दिस शास्त्रा, जैसे आई एम गोना गेट दिस, बट उसने ये भी छोड़ दिया और वो उसको मिला नहीं। और बीच में डेथ केम एंड रॉब्ड हिम। तो ना, लाइक आई सेड नो, कि एक बड़ी अच्छी कहावत है हिंदी और पंजाबी में भी, यू नो, धोबी दा कुत्ता घर दा न काटता। सो धोबी का कुत्ता घर का भी नहीं है, घाट का, बीच में लटक गया वो, तो उसका बेचारे का क्या होगा? दैट्स व्हाट ही इज आस्किंग।
Such a seeker, striving all his life to live in self control, will be a conscious escapist, avoiding all the finite joy temptations in the gross world here. But if the uncertain factor called death were to creep in to clip the thread of his life with the scissors of time, he would lose his chances of gaining the absolute beatitude, which is the goal that Lord Krishna seems to point out in his divine song. Again, suppose that a seeker, due to lack of self-control, falls from yoga. To win in yoga, no doubt, is a great victory, again par excellence. But if, in the race, one were to get knocked down by the stealthy club of sensuousness, one would stand to lose both in the here and in the hereafter. Naturally, Arjun wants some reassurances from Krishna as to what will happen to such an individual.
You know, there is
In
another.
this verse-
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, there is another line for it. Go ahead. मेरे में नहीं है, हाँ.
Okay, there's one more paragraph here. In this verse also, we must note very carefully that the term Shraddha is not some maddening superstition which encourages a blind faith. According to Shankara, Shraddha is the right intellectual apprehension of the deeper import and the fuller significance of what the teachers teach and the scriptures declare. The inspired devotion that springs up in a bosom from among its solid intellectual convictions, gained through a true appreciation, is the mighty power called faith that can move mountains and bring the very heavens on the earth.
So this is what I was talking about when he described what is Shraddha. But मेरे में वो split कर दिया था paragraph. In yours, it may be a continuation. So, you know, talking about all this, and I just wanted to talk about one little thing from the previous paragraph where he said Vishay Anand and Brahmanand. Those were the words. Sanskrit के विषय is the worldly आनंद, विषयों का आनंद, that's the word they use, you know, object. अगर इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेशन करें ना विषय का, तो they are object that give us, or Brahmanand is a permanent. Okay, so then we discussed that this paragraph where he's talking about if the death was to come, does that mean that everything was wasted of him? And I was just thinking, I don't know 100% about Christianity, but because a lot of them don't believe, a lot of them do believe in afterlife in Christianity. I've come across those kind of people, but there are some people who don't. So then maybe in them, okay, you have that final judgment day, and then either you go to hell or you go to heaven, and that's the end of it. I don't know. Meera ji can clarify because she knows a little more about it. कि भाई वो permanently वहाँ पर हो गया क्या? That's what maybe they think.
Permanently. They believe, and I think almost other religions, Muslims also believe the same thing, and Christianity believes the same thing, that you have only one life to live. They continually keep saying that, you know, you have only one life to live. And in that life, whatever you do, if you do good deeds, then you are rewarded in your afterlife. Afterlife, they all believe in, that after that, the soul is going to live on. But then you will be rewarded. And if you do bad deeds, then you will be punished.
Correct.
But then there's no second chance.
Right.
That's
So
it.
that's exactly. So this is a very kind of scary scenario. कि as though you
Yes.
are eternally like gone in hell. My God, सोच के भी काम जाएगा कोई. Because हम लोग if we किसी को भी पूछो कि भाई have you ever done anything bad, मेरे को लगता है कि 7 billion people में से कोई नहीं मिलेगा जो बोलता है मैं हर रोज सब कुछ अच्छा ही करता हूँ. You know, our conscious tells us few times that we have. So इसका मतलब what we are going to be, and we don't know the judgment day how they're going to look at it. So I'm just saying that maybe that kind of question can be there if you don't believe in it. And suppose, okay, you do believe in the next life. So the question could be, जो मैंने अभी अचीव किया है क्या मुझे सारा वापस करना पड़ेगा? Remember we discussed that hey, whatever I have done, practice and all, मैंने इतना गीता को पढ़ने की कोशिश की और नेक्स्ट जन्म में सब भूल जाऊंगी मैं. और शायद मैं गीता के क्या बोलते हैं उसके संपर्क में आऊंगी या नहीं. Right? Will I come in contact with it? Will some guru come? I mean, my God, that is a scary thought. Or we all are in that thing. You know, even come to this class, I'm sure you have to deny some of the other stuff. You know, I mean, in my own family, I sometimes I struggle. You know, if my son is having some issues, I know, Mom, your class is more important to you than me. I get to hear that too. After hearing that, I could still do it. So हम लोग को भी तपस करना पड़ता है. Okay, I'll deal with you after a few hours. Okay, whatever your issue is right now, I cannot. And वो सब negative सुन के भी I gotta come here. So this is what it's talking about. And then I was thinking about a worldly analogy for this. Suppose, you know, I get admission in some hi-fi college and I go there, and after 2 years, I got distracted and I quit. You know, does that mean everything got wasted? In some ways, no. Whatever you have learned for 2 years is with you. And after 10 years, if you want to go back to college, they're going to not make you repeat the 2 years. See what I'm saying? So if you talk about the continuation of life, we have a problem when we don't look at life as a continuous thing. But if it is a continuous thing, it will stick to us. And just like we have discussed that the subtle body is a, you know, mind and intellect plus all our vasanas are there. There are spiritual vasanas there too, right? If I have affinity to some spiritual thing, that also goes with me, and that will flower very quickly. And that's what he's going to talk about, you know. So I remember that, you know, when we were in Houston, there were a lot of doctors who lived around our house because we were near medical center. Because my husband used to work in medical center. And I was friends with some of the psychiatrists also. And one of them told me, you know, he was a not American person. He was not an Indian. He said, but he had studied some, maybe Hinduism, Buddhism a little bit. He said, actually, the Eastern religions are the most psychologically satisfying religion. You know, that's how he put it from his perspective. So they are the most satisfying because firstly you are told, hey, you are that. Imagine somebody telling you, hey, you are not this some ordinary person that you think you are. You are actually that Brahman. You know, you have just taken this body. That's one thing. And secondly, that everybody is going to get there. We might fall down many times. It's like a baby trying to walk. If he falls, doesn't mean he's never going to walk or anything. You know, I'm talking about an average. But so that's exactly what they're talking about, that they're so satisfying that, hey, nothing goes waste. That's how we have to look at it. Is going to be that the answer, but that's the doubt. We all start having it. So that's
I have a question. Is that okay to ask a question now?
Yeah, you can ask. Usually what we do is that when I finish, and this is almost finished. Yeah, it is. But, or just wait 1 minute and I'll give a chance to ask question. And then he talked about Shraddha, right? So this is also another very big thing. And in several different places, he will talk about Shraddha, and we have to be very clear on it in our mind. It is not blind faith. Somebody said, hey, go do this. If you don't do this, something bad will happen to you. That's called blind faith. I don't know why he's saying it. Koi kali billi ne rasta kaat liya, something bad will happen. That's called blind faith. But here, Shraddha is talking about intellectual apprehension of the deeper imports. So you can have Shraddha in the Shastra, in your guru. It's something like when I go to college of engineering, I have a Shraddha that if I do everything they're telling me, I will get an engineering degree. and I have a Shraddha in the professors. If they have hired these guys, then they are qualified. See what I'm saying? That's called Shraddha. Or if I go take a plane, I know that the pilot is not a drunkard over there because the company has sorted him out. And then I sit in peace so I can go. So there is some intellectual thing behind it. And then as far as Shastras go, I may not understand everything in it, but I have Shraddha that if I put effort, I will understand everything. I don't know yet. So that's why it's called the deeper imports and fuller significance of the scripture. Okay, and then he's saying that with the Shraddha, the devotion springs up. Devotion is nothing but I want to pursue this path. Another form of devotion is I don't give up. Okay, so because of the Shraddha, and then when you are, your mind and intellect, everything gets aligned to try to get something, you can move mountains, he's saying. And we know, किसी ने कोई ठान ली बात, कोई बोलेगा, how can you move the mountain? It's just a phrase, okay? What they're trying to say, that how these saints and sages, they take up a cause and millions of people connect to it. That's why they can move mountains, because it's a good cause. They believe in it. There is strength in it. There is उसमें देश की भलाई है या दुनिया की भलाई है या earth की भलाई है. Other people will join it and move mountains. So it's a very loaded word that you cannot take it just as a plain word and say, oh, how can it move mountains? It can, because there is a force. There's a whole universe will get behind you to do it. So that's where it's coming from. Okay, so now you can ask that question, Urmilji.
Oh, yeah. So like in our Hinduism, we say soul is, we get reborn and soul comes in that next person. But Miraji, you said in Christianity and Islam, the soul is there, but where does it go then after the body is gone? Does it go into another person?
No. It just exists, but that is why you get it goes either to heaven or it goes to hell. That is very clear.
So I want to say something. It's not like जैसे कि ये जो भगवद गीता का all the verses and all, no, lot of people around the world connect to it. In some ways, some people believe there's nothing to do with religion either. There are the truths being mentioned over here. So in Christianity, I have met people who are born in the Christian family, but they absolutely don't connect to that thing, what Miraji is saying. That is, how can that? It is not logical. So then they study the Eastern philosophy and they immediately connect to it because that resonates with their mind and all that. So these, and there are, I have talked about this in Bible. Actually, there was a mention of reincarnation but Bible में ना changes हुए हैं. And there is one major change happened at King Constantine's time. And all of you can Google and study this. This is, Christian लोग छुपाने की कोशिश करेंगे इसको because they don't want people to think like that. But it is not everything that Jesus believed in. It's not everything Jesus said. There have been manipulation. But हमारी जो भगवद गीता है ना, वो एक song के रूप में है. उसमें कोई change इधर से उधर भी नहीं कर सकता है. It's like so tight, So
I have a comment on this because I studied that in great detail. Because I had the same question about Christianity. So there are missing years of Christ.
Yes.
Christ went to
India.
Nepal, in the Buddhist monastery, and India.
Yeah.
And he has studied that religions, all of that in India. When he came back, the thing he realized that it's too complicated to explain the reincarnation and everything. So if you read the Bible very carefully, it says, those who do follow the Christianity 100%, in other words, those who are perfect, they go there. The others are all sinners, and Christ took the sin on their head when he killed himself. He took everybody's sin there. So then there are these Essene scrolls, which were written around 80 AD, and they were found in Israel. And I used to study this lady from Theosophical Society, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and she used to talk about that all the time, that the reincarnation and meditation was part of that. In fact, Mary Madeline was a reincarnation in later life, which she talked about. But what I'm saying is Christ believed in those. Also, equality of women, Christ believed in. And then 480, this council they set up in Vatican, and they revised everything, And they said, this is good, this is bad, this is that.
Right, so they did their manipulation for their own thing, because एक जगह स्वामी जी ने भी कमेंट किया कि भाई क्रिश्चियनिटी में बोलते एक ही लाइफ है, तो अभी सुधरना है, अभी सुधरो, राइट. सो अपना इंडियन में बोलेगा हाँ अरे बहुत सारे लाइफ है, इधर मेरे को सिन करने दो, नेक्स्ट लाइफ में करूंगा. सी व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. सो ही सेइंग दैट ही एक्चुअली मेड अ कमेंट. ही सेड कि क्रिश्चियन लोग मे बी आर बेटर. आप उनके दिल में ऐसे आया होगा एक दिन.
Vivekananda talked about it, that Christianity as well as Islam is the product of one person, what vision came to him and he described. In Indian scriptures, all these rishis did thousands of years of meditation to come up with those shrutis and all the other stuff that came around.
Right, it's been validated. Like बोलते हैं ना peer reviewed journal, बोलते हैं ना कि साइंस में वही है ये अपना जो scriptures है ना, peer reviewed, they're done by everything. So anyway, this discussion, there is no limit to it. Come back to the thing, and then I wanted to tell you that because there is like near-death experiences are happening to people, and they are talking about it, because nowadays, because the internet and all that, there are so many societies. This phenomena of reincarnation, it's not just because we are Hindu, so we will get reincarnated, and a Christian won't. Nothing like that. Everybody has this, and these Christian people will clearly say, hey, it shattered all my beliefs. I heard one talk 2 days ago, and I'll post it today. Such a powerful thing. This person, his experience, in 12 minutes, he went into the other realm, and whatever it describes is exactly Bhagavad Gita, what we are learning. What Brahman is, and how we are in this world of time, space, and causality, and there is a realm which it doesn't have that, and it is pure, Sat Chit Anand. And he's talking about that, and he said he wanted to be a priest, and he decided not to because he cannot connect to this Christianity's thing. All of that. So there are all these Christian people who personally have that experience. Then they know that it is true. So it doesn't matter where you can be Muslim, Christian, Jew, Zoroastrian, anybody, and you can have the same experience. And this Bhagavad Gita is applicable to everything, because it's telling of the fundamental thing. So any other question? I hope that helped, Urmilji. Yeah. Any other question or comment? Okay. So we have time to go to the next verse also. We'll see how far we go. And there is one connecting line or whatever. Sometime it is in the next one. So that's okay. Yeah. So I'm going to chant the next one. It is connected.
So I just finished reading the connecting line.
Yeah.
Okay, to throw more color onto the picture of the spirituality, to the spiritually desperate seeker, whom Arjun has attempted to paint in the previous stanza, the following is added.
So he is just he asked this question, and now he's gonna tell another thing to make that question more powerful, So that's what it is, the next one. Kachino bhaya vibhrashtaha chinna bhramiva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimuda brahmana pati. Kachita, is it that? No, is not. Ubhaya vibhrashtaha, fallen from both. And there's double meaning in it. We'll see what it means. Chinnam is rent. Chinna bhinna ho jana. जिसको बोलते हैं ना, टूट जाना ऐसे. That's what it is. Abhram is cloud. Iva is like. Nashyati perishes. Chinna bhinna होके कोई perish हो जाए, खत्म हो जाए. Apratishta, supportless. मतलब जिसको जो कोई किसी चीज से जुड़ा हुआ नहीं हो. अंधेरे में खो जाए कोई, यू नो, लाइक वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट कि वो नरक में बैठा है तो इटर्नली वो बैठा हुआ है वहां पे, समथिंग लाइक दैट. महाबाहो, ओ माइटी आर्म. अभी अर्जुन कृष्ण को महाबाहो बोल रहे हैं. You know, अर्जुन इज, so एक दूसरे को सेम नाम से बुलाते हैं. You know, विमूढ़, deluded, मूड पर्सन, you know, इसकी मतलब जिसको रियलिटी दिखाई नहीं दे रही है. Brahmana of Brahman means he's talking about that highest state. Pathi is in the path. So what is he telling over here? So now you know which person he was talking about. The person who has a Shraddha, who is striving, from some reason does not reach the goal. Either he got distracted temporarily, or he has not put fully effort, or he is still on the path. All three things apply to that situation. He's not reached the goal and बीच में उसकी death हो गई. So fallen from both. So दुनिया से भी गया और वो भी नहीं मिला. So that's one meaning, right? And so worldly pleasure he gave up, and he did not attain the final goal. And then when they say fallen from both, there is another meaning also, that there are two different paths that Krishna Bhagavan talked about, path of karma yoga, path of jnana yoga. And we have gone in detail, and here is saying, वो दोनों path से गिर गया. You know, वो कर्म योगा कर रहा था, he wanted to reach the ज्ञान योगा, वहां पहुंच नहीं पाया तो इधर से भी गया उधर से भी गया, right? Because this was a prerequisite, you know. So that's what it is. He didn't both. So dono meaning is applicable over here. And that here Arjun gives an example because he didn't get satisfied by just saying. He's saying just like a cloud, you know, it a big. You know, what you call samuha of a group of cloud together. They're together and they're moving away together. उसमें से एक टुकड़ा ऐसे निकल गया क्लाउड का, और ये अभी पूरा का पूरा चला गया और बरसात कर दी इसने. समझो ये काले काले बादल हैं और उन्होंने बरसात, और ये बेचारा टूटा फूटा छोटा सा टुकड़ा इधर उधर छिन्न भिन्न होके बीइंग किक्ड अराउंड बाय द विंड इधर हियर एंड देयर. उसकी बरसात भी नहीं हुई उससे, और वो टूट के बिखर गया. वो वाला एग्जाम्पल दिया, मतलब कितना सुंदर एग्जाम्पल उसने दिया कि भाई, यू नो, दैट्स व्हाट इज टॉकिंग अबाउट. तो जैसे डिसॉल्व ही हो गया स्पेस में, यू नो, इटर्निटी में खो गया वो क्लाउड. सो ही सेइंग दैट उसी सिमिलरली व्हेन द योगी डिटैचेस हिमसेल्फ फ्रॉम द वर्ल्ड, यू नो, एंड ही इज नॉट रीच्ड द फाइनल गोल, तो क्या वो भी ऐसे ही खो जाएगा? That's what he's talking about. And then he's यहाँ पर the word brahmana pathi is there, and that means seeker of Brahman. जो ब्राह्मण के पाथ पे अग्रसर है, means in the one who is doing the supreme goal पे चल रहा है. That's what it means. And so this is that question also of you know, we have discussed it, that after life after death, that what happens to a person, life after that you can call it, that this reincarnation has been again brought out in a subtle manner, you know, by Arjuna. And because that is even people who believe in it, and when we do the next verse, you know, I'll bring those points, that because we don't have any proof and we don't know it, that's why sometimes we may have a doubt about it, because we don't have nobody to talk to it about, you know, कि वहाँ जाके कोई वापस आया है. But now I'm looking at it a slightly different way, that these people who have this temporarily, जिनकी heartbeat बंद हो जाती है and all that, and they get some experience and they come back, वो भी इतना डर डर के सबको बताते हैं, because most of them tell them you're crazy and your mind was hallucinating and all that, and they cannot connect. But finally, because of internet and such an open communication, they are finding each other in the world, and they are getting together and discussing it and all that. Anyway. So this is also a very simple one, you know, his example. Any question or comment on this example? Okay, who are my next reader? Meena ji, you want to read?
Fallen from both, does he not, O mighty arm, perish like a rent cloud, sportless and deluded in the path of Brahman? Emphasizing in more elaborate terms the doubt already expressed earlier, Arjuna now inquires as to what happens to that seeker who, although striving hard with faith, but for want of restraint, falls from yoga and thus fails to carry his efforts to the point of complete success. Will his efforts be balked both here and thereafter? Fallen away from both is a very suggestive term which can be applied also to both the spiritual paths so far described, knowledge and action.
So we already discussed all that. You know the whole scenario that is asking, hey, what happens to it? And when he talks about fallen from both, it can be looked at it as from that उसको दुनिया भी नहीं मिली, वो भी नहीं मिला, और दोनों path of yoga that he has mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, दोनों से गिर गया वो. हाँ.
So does that mean that knowledge and action, is that knowledge is required for the meditation, right? You require that. Now, knowledge and action, we're talking about two different paths. Well, he has not reached meditation part of it. It's just karma yoga at this point. Is that it?
So if you go back to karma yoga and jnana yoga, karma yoga was a prerequisite for jnana yoga. There are people who are, and he's going to talk about those now, जिन्होंने ऑलरेडी बहुत साधना कर ली है ना, जब उनका नया जन्म होता है ना, बहुत जल्दी से उनमें वैराग्य होता है. Like when I go to this Hare Krishna place, right? There's one guy who like became like one of the main guys over there. एक है वहाँ का, Badrinaran Swami, he's really like the highest. But then there are younger people, and there's Balram. And Balram was saying that at age 17 he connected, and very quickly he took all the sannyas and all that. See that, I mean, there are people who are, going to bars and drinking and doing all the 17. He's doing Hare Krishna. So he's done in previous life, right? So Karma Yoga was the earlier path, and then that leads to Jnana Yoga, because you can't even go to Jnana Yoga if you have not fulfilled all the things of the Karma Yoga, because जो लोग ऐसे होते हैं ना ज्ञान योगा में, वो कर्म योगा spontaneously करते हैं, right? But हम लोग को, we have to learn it and do it, and that prepares us to do the next one. So this situation that Arjun is talking about can fit anywhere, up to the point that he has not reached. अपने Puranic stories भी है, right? That there was this Vishwamitra. मेनका ने आके डांस किया तो वो भी फिसल गए. He's up there, right? So it applies to all the scenarios. A person who is in a very early state, just think of it as somebody started with kindergarten. He dropped out at 5th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade, second year of college. All that applies. That means his effort got waste, or what? He's asking.
Right. That means he just starts from that point onwards in his next life.
That's right. There you go.
Maji, one question here. Does it also apply to someone who has full control of mind?
When you say full control of mind, that's a very tricky thing. And I'll give you a drishtant, and then maybe it will become clear. So there was one saint who was very everybody felt like he's the highest state, right? So his chela comes and says, Guruji, have you mastered anger so far? Because he felt that he has. Guru ne nahi bola ki I have mastered. He said, I'll let you know. Okay? Then at his deathbed, when he knew that death is going to come, he said, oh yes, I have mastered anger. Because even if you may think that you got everything, if we are in body, we have a chance of slipping. Again, unless you are established in it completely. It's like Krishna Bhagwan is never going to slip. Or somebody who, that's why it's called man of steady wisdom. He is so well established in it कि वो न सपने में न real life कभी नहीं वो फिसलेगा. इतना अगर कोई हो जाए तो बात अलग है. Then they may not even talk about it. But up to then, what you're saying is true. You can have a complete mastery and then still slip. Possible. But you are not established then. So there's a difference. Subtle difference.
But Krishna is avatar. So he is already, that is the
exactly.
difference.
But somebody, if they don't believe in it, chalo. Okay, so that's why I think we used to have this discussion in our group when we were doing study group in Houston, that one is an avatar.
Yes.
So he's doing a Leela. That's why it's called Leela, right? Like he's up there and he's just playing this game. Then the others are like Swami Chinmayanandi or Vivekanandaji, who were born as mortals, but because they had done some heavy sadhana in the previous life and all that, and then, when as we finish this chapter, you will learn about it. They will be born in the family which will help them to develop and blah blah and all that. Yogi ki family mein hoga, he will connect to this very quickly and all that. Then they actually did a journey and they got self-realized. But then Anil ji, they are not going to fall either, because then they are men of steady wisdom. But there is a possibility that somebody is not fully established. 99.99 there, 0.01, you can slip. I think that's where the Vishwamitra belong to. But then with his self-effort, he got over that too. Right? Yeah. So.
A sincere wayfarer, faithfully treading the path of self-control to rediscover the self, may get lost if death were to rob him on his way, or for want of complete self-control, he were to fall from yoga. The striking example with which this idea is brought out by Arjuna is one of the most brilliant poetic strokes in the entire Gita. This is often quoted in literary circles whenever an attempt is made to evaluate Vyasa, the poet, in Sanskrit literature.
So I think that people who are studying Sanskrit as a literature, they must be studying this particular verse because of its beauty and how he gave the example in Sanskrit and made a poetry out of it. So that's what he's talking about. And then the other thing he talked about, that there could be two different scenarios, that he get lost if the death were to rob him, or for want of self-control, he fell from yoga. So both scenarios are in this one.
In summer, mushroom-shaped floating castles of clouds rise themselves from behind the mountains to peep into the valleys below. At the touch of some strong current of wind, the mass takes to flight, leaving along its trail small bits of fleecy cloudlets. Those little ones, torn away from the parental bulk, get knocked about and are at the mercy of every wandering breeze. Such summer cloudlets, aimlessly kicked about according to the whims and fancies of the winds, can never fulfill the expectations of the farmers or the clamor of the thirsty. Unfulfilling themselves, they get tossed hither and thither without any haven for themselves. Like the rent cloud, Arjuna asks, will not the aspiring self in the seeker be forced to roam about and ultimately get lost in the vast amphitheater of the universe?
So this is what we already discussed everything, and then Swamiji put in his own poetic language that ultimately get lost in the vast amphitheater of the universe. Eternity mein kho gaya bechara. There is one show on Netflix that my boys always talk about, in A Good Place. I don't know how many of you have heard of it or at all heard of it. And they have taken this concept of all this afterlife and all that from the Eastern philosophy and made it into some show. But sometimes they talk about this eternally get lost into them, like, hey, thank God in our scripture, they don't talk about this because it's so scary scenario. That's what it is. But anyway, we have discussed everything about the clouds also. So anybody has any question or comment?
Yeah. The last sentence. I thought it was ultimately get lost in the vast amphitheater of the universe. Is it the universe we're talking? I thought from what you said, I got a different idea.
What are you confused about?
Universe would be here, that he gets completely lost.
No, he's talking about, no. The reason he said about universe कि अगर death उसकी हो गई मीरा जी तो फिर उसका क्या होगा? So there are so many questions attached to it, including the reincarnation also. Okay, so this verse is loaded with lot of questions. One question is, you can say that, hey, whatever effort he did will it go? Suppose if you do believe in reincarnation. Suppose, okay, you believe in reincarnation. Then the question would be, hey, I believe in reincarnation, but will this, all what I'm doing, go waste?
Yeah.
Right? There could be another group of people who don't even believe in reincarnation.
Right.
Then this question, your last sentence, I will apply to those people. Hey, what happened to me if afterlife, they do build the Christianities, they do believe in afterlife, but then eternally they're sitting in hell, or eternally they're, and even heaven, किसी ने बोला कि किसी को heaven में बैठा दो ना eternally, और सब कुछ दे दो जो उसको चाहिए, फिर भी बोर हो जाएगा वो. We have discussed that. And we know so many rich people, they have everything and they don't know what to do with themselves. So that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, that each verse is so loaded. It has several different aspects to it. So when he's talking about getting universally lost, he's talking about after death. If he doesn't believe in reincarnation, does he get lost, this person? That's what it is.
Okay.
Any other question or comment? Anybody wants to add anything to this? So the other third part of the question, we don't have time to finish that today. But basically, he's going to say, Krishna Bhagwan, please answer this question. You are the only one who can do this. We will see. Not everybody can answer this question, because it's like, hey, the people that who quit this world or who pass away, we have no contact with them, and we have forgotten our previous life. So we don't know. So Krishna Bhagwan is Trikaldarshi. Now Arjun knows. Remember, he gave him the visiting card at chapter 4. He told them that, तुम्हारे भी बहुत जन्म हो चुके हैं, मेरे भी बहुत जन्म हो चुके हैं, मुझे सब कुछ याद है. So he's catching on to that. You are the only one who can answer that question. That's going to come next. So we'll do that next time. Okay. If nobody has any question, I can close Bhagavad Gita here. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ओम.